Okie dokie. Everyone ready for, what are we about, the midway point of the second day? So, good times. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to talk a little bit about moving InfoPath forms to PowerApps. And really what we're going to do is we're probably going to talk about the really sad portions and then kind of make sure you understand some of the pieces, because it's probably not the story that you're hoping for. How many of you have already tried and just you're here hoping I have some great news that you haven't seen already? All right. I don't. I'll set expectations low. So, okay, real quick. My name is Shane Young. I've been a SharePoint or PowerApps MVP for 18.7 million years, I think. But so I own a company called PowerApps 911. We do PowerApps, Flow, Power BI, Azure, all those fun things. There's my email address. There is my Twitter. And the one you probably care the most about, well, really it's my YouTube channel, but that's a different story. But down here at the bottom, InBAS 2019, you can grab all the links from the session. So all the content, if you don't want to have to capture the URLs, you just want to go click on them, go to that website, and there are all the links clickable. So anyway, hey, I said click. Oh, it did. It just didn't show me it clicked. Whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to run through the agenda, run through the different things about InfoPath and just talk about, kind of set the expectations. And then we'll talk about the exciting part of doing it in PowerApps. Woo! And then finally just look at some different things and just kind of get you to think about this a little differently. So hopefully. All right. I think we all probably have heard by now, right? InfoPath is going away. And so Microsoft, if you look at it, they're like, all right, the official support end date is 2026, but if you really kind of read that, that is the official support date for on-prem InfoPath, right? So with online, remember the rules are a little different. So with SharePoint Online today, InfoPath works and is supported, yay, but all I can say, I guess I'd say it this way, is any feature that they don't have a direct replacement for, they can deprecate with 365 days notice. Any feature that they have a replacement for, like InfoPath, is they can deprecate with 30 days notice. So I'm not trying to tell you that they're deprecating it tomorrow and you have 31 days, but I'm just trying to remind you that this 2026 date seems like a really long time away, and if you're on-prem, well, you probably wouldn't be in the session, but if you are in the cloud, that 2026 date is not the same as the on-prem date, okay? So that was my first piece of really sad, bad news, just to make sure everyone understood it wasn't a promise of 2026 for InfoPath. The second piece of bad news is there's no next finish type of solution. So I wish I could just tell you that there's a migration tool you can just go grab, suck in all your InfoPath forms, and then be like, woo, I've done this, and it's over. There is not a story like that. I've seen some third-party stuff. Someone sent me something like literally 3 days ago that did some of that, but I haven't looked at it enough, so I'm not going to promote it. But as I understand InfoPath and I understand PowerApps, I just don't see a real magical solution that's ever going to just say, oh, let's take all the InfoPath forms and do it. And I realize some of you probably have hundreds of forms, right? Anybody got thousands of forms? Yeah, so a few. Tens of thousands? Anybody got tens of thousands? No? I mean, it's fair, right? If I look at my business, we only had 2. So I was like, no big deal. But if you've got hundreds, you've got to go through the process of finding all those forms, figuring out what they do, how they work, and then rebuilding them all in PowerApps. And you're just going to have to kind of start accepting that you're going to have to go through that process. The good news is that I'm excited for you to go through that process. You're not, but I'm excited for you. And the reason is it's an opportunity. When we did, there's Chewy with his head stuck in a Frisbee because, I don't know, it felt in an apologetic way as torturing my dog. But one of the big things that we saw with InfoPath was you guys, we were all guilty of, but we basically just took a piece of paper and recreated it as a form, right? We just one for one, yay. We're like, oh, it doesn't support mobile. Oh, well, the good news was we're getting the data entry in. But we didn't think about things like mobile. We weren't able to have multiple data sources. We had a lot of real challenges around these InfoPath forms. But it was the best solution going for a really long time. And so we built a lot of them, and we were happy with them. but you're kind of left wanting. And so what I want to kind of do is spend the rest of this time just talking about, as we transition into Power Apps, it's really your chance to do things better. And so what I'm trying to get people to stop doing is thinking of this as a migration from InfoPath to Power Apps, and think about it as we're going to build net new Power Apps. The InfoPath form might be in the inspiration, but it's a net new thing. And if you put that on, it changes your expectations, right? It gets you thinking in the right mindset. So I want to make sure that you kind of reset your brain to net new in Power Apps. But when you do it, now all of a sudden you can get in there and you can start to build an experience. And this is something that good old Audrey Gordon set me down like almost 2 years ago and said, hey, start thinking about this as building experiences. And these are new muscles for a lot of us. A lot of us are either really good at business rules, so we understand from the business side, or some of us are really good from the technology side. But very few of us come into this and start thinking about user interface and user experience. And those are some of the skills that I want you guys to start thinking about and developing. So, for example, the image, we'll start with the image over on the right. This is a great example of, if you had a form where you've got a person who has to go around the building and check the thermometer, or I guess thermometer is the right word, the thermostat, that's the word. If they had to check the thermostat, in each location, so they walk up to it, they're like, oh, this one's set to 73. They open the InfoPath form, they click on the number field, they type in 73. Boop. Then they go to the next one. Oh, this one's 72.5. Type it in. Boop. Right. It worked. They got the data. We were happy. But now with Power Apps, what we want you to do is say, oh, you know what I could really do is I could just give you a nice little slider, right? So you can jump in there, just stick your finger on the screen and move the temperature to what it is and capture the temperature that way, right? Much faster, much easier. And if you think about the InfoPath number form, right, they could type any number they wanted. One reality in your office, right, the thermostat is probably 70 degrees, give or take 3 degrees, right? So my slider might only have a range of 5 degrees, right? It might just go from 65 to 75. So we're not doing all these little tiny increments. We've just got these big, smooth increments. And so that's a small little change that we can make when we go to Power Apps that makes the form infinitely more usable. So think about the experience. Think about how do you drive a better, more contextual thing. To that end, one of the biggest things that I've seen in a lot of these cases is the camera keeps getting rolled in. We went from a world where we didn't have pictures, right? How many of you are glad we didn't have camera phones when you were in college? Yeah. Some of you probably did though, right? There's some young people out there, so you guys had camera phones, I'm sorry. But that's one of the things. We never had camera type of stuff with InfoPath forms. I would say that 2/3 of the Power Apps that I build for customers, we end up incorporating images. And it might be images of, it's probably not images of the thermostat readings, but it might be images of, hey, look at all these people in here, or look at this part, or look at the damage that we need to repair, right? Starting to capture more information in images. And in Power Apps, that's just built in natively. So take advantage of your cameras. With that, I will tell you guys, I'll cut to the chase on this one. Azure Blob Storage is where you want to store images. So if you are trying to do images in Power Apps, Azure Blob Storage is the de facto #1 best place. We also have barcode scanners. A lot of my manufacturing customers are starting to automate solutions on the floor with barcode scanner, right? They're building simple little apps, and so instead of someone having to log in and type what part they're working on or pick it out of a drop-down, bink, 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 scan their ID, bink, and they move on. And so what's even really more interesting here is I've got several customers who all right, we really like this. We don't want to, they used to have to buy those big handheld scanners and they're delicate and all this. And what they're doing now is they're buying previous generation iPods for next to nothing, and they're just disposable, right? If the iPod gets dropped or broken, well, grab another one off the shelf. And they just have hundreds of these things laying around, and that's the way that they're incorporating barcode scanning and Power Apps in their environment without a bunch of fancy, expensive one-off hardware. They're just buying a bunch of iPods. I was like, that's kind of clever. We also get things like the GPS. So another golden rule as you guys get into Power Apps is I don't want you to be doing things like, you never ask a user for information you know, right? You know who's logged in, you know their name, you know their email address, you know all their manager. Don't ask them for things they know. Quit doing that. The GPS is another one though. I have a lot of field apps, so apps that we're putting in hands of construction workers and service technicians and things like that. And so behind the scenes, we're grabbing the latitude and longitude of where they're recording this damage or where they're working on a service ticket. Little things like that, never even conceivable anymore, right? So that's why we don't think of just, here's the service InfoPath form, let me make it a service PowerApp form. Now it's, hey, let's make it a service InfoPath or PowerApps form, but let's get some pictures of the work you're doing. Let's grab location, let's grab data. So that's another one. We already talked about touch control. And then the last one down there at the bottom, this is another challenge that I would push to you. One of the things that I hated personally the most about InfoPath forms is you open up an InfoPath form, and if it had 100 fields, what did you do? You scrolled to the bottom to fill out 100 fields, right? It was just like this never-ending, oh my God, am I ever going to be done filling out this form? One of my golden rules of building PowerApps is thou shalt never scroll to input data. So you can build the InfoPath form, or the PowerApps form, so you can do it with tabs, you can do it with multiple screens, right? There's 17 different ways to collect that same information, but not make it feel like, oh my God, I have to fill out this novel of information. So that would be my next thing to you. No more scrolling inputs. So a very common thing when I talk to InfoPath people is like, hey, I can't do repeating tables. You absolutely can do repeating tables, and you can do them better. So this is a simple example. I wanted to start you out with a real easy one. From a PowerApps perspective, all this is, in reality, is this is a gallery control, so that way I can have that repeating line-by-line option, and I'm putting the data into a collection, because every time I say, hey, new row, that just adds a new blank row to my collection, and so I can fill in the data. So this is a simplistic example, but this is actually a customer's production app, but this is a very simple way to look at, all right, I can do repeating tables and get the same type of interface I had before. So that's the basic one. This one, all right, so this is one that is like my cutting edge one. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna hit the play and try to play the video without screwing it up, or try to talk to my own video as I do, because I don't trust the internet here. So this is that same concept, a little bit smaller, but so over there we showed how to do pictures. I edit. Here's my attach interface to actually attach repeating pictures into the line. So all the lines have edits. And this poor guy, Brian here, he has to input a bunch of part numbers that are sequential. So I made him a little thing down here. He put in 2 numbers, and then it goes ahead and populates the lines with the repeating ones, right? He has to enter 30 parts at a time. So he types in 1 to 30, boop, I give him 30 blank lines so he can then go and tweak each line. So repeating tables on steroids, right? It's not that PowerApps does repeating tables like InfoPath. It kicks InfoPath's ass at doing repeating tables once you kind of start to wrap your head around this is what's capable. Now, don't get me wrong. This is complicated, right? This is lots of Shane being super nerdy to do, but as you learn it, right, I did it in baby pieces, right? I mean, clearly you can even tell from the design, right? This was one of the very first ones I did. Very simplistic. I worked out the save and the edit buttons over there on the right. All right, I get it. I kind of feel better. So then we came to this, guys. All right, now I can do the images. Now I can start to do things like this repeating table at the bottom. You can go and build and extend your skills. So don't feel like you have to look at this and go, I need all of that right now. If this is above your pay grade today, build the simple version. Get it working. Piece by piece, add the pieces. Go. No. So then here's another quick example. This is an app that I built for the Microsoft Showcase, but this is a timesheet app. And what I want to talk about here, right, is the simplicity of the design. Come in, all right, what project did you work on? I worked on the county hospital. Oh, I'm going to provide Band-Aids to them. Nope. I went to the government building. I'm going to plan the budget. There's create a mural if you're a Parks and Rec fan in there. But, right, very simple design to get an employee entering their time. And that's another big one of my tenets. I looked at a lot of these InfoPath forms that people had. They needed training, right? When I first got into PowerApps, they're like, what is your training plan for the new app you're going to build for us? The way that I respond is if I build you an app that needs training, I suck, right? I have failed you if I build an app that needs training. The app should be like this, right? We like to refer to this as the Hulk smash method. Enter my time, Hulk smash. What project did you work on? Hulk smash, right? There's no decisions. I just filled in the information until I got through it and the user got what they wanted. So that would be my next challenge, you guys. Also notice, right, there was no scrolling. I was getting multiple screens of information. No scrolling, one screen. Let's see what's next. So then here's another example of all one screen. So this is a very common first Power App for people, right? We got a gallery over here showing some data, and then here in the middle, I've got a form. And as soon as I hit play, you're going to see that this dumb form, I got to scroll, right? So if I choose Greg and his terrible picture, Greg's very ugly. It's a known fact. But so I got to scroll. Yeah, boo. So jump over here to a different screen. Same data, same information. I made a very simple tab interface so that I could break it up into these little pieces. And it's all, in reality, just one form. There's no shenanigans going on here. It's just one form, and I'm just changing the visible property as to which tab you have chosen. And these are the type of little things, once again, I just kind of increment my apps, but this, from a user perspective, is much more user-friendly. It's not as daunting. So, but it's another common scenario that we see out of InfoPath. Out of InfoPath applied into PowerApps. The other thing that I found really fun about this, and I didn't even realize it, so I don't know if you guys have been here the last 2 days, but Manuela's name's come up a couple of times, right? The woman from Virgin and all of the fun things they've done over there, Virgin Atlantic Airlines. And so her and I were chatting. I never even correlated that. And so she sent me a bunch of screenshots of some of her InfoPath forms. And as we were talking about it, she said one of the biggest changes for them was they had things like this in InfoPath. She said one of her apps, their customer refund app, had 500 different conditionals in the InfoPath form to make it all work. And it worked. But she said every time that someone asked her for a change to that, because there was 500 moving parts, she literally got sick to her stomach, and she was like, no. So she rebuilt it in PowerApps. Now she's got it broken up into individual screens with all the components just where they need to be. Guess what? She is no longer afraid of the app. She's no longer afraid of change. And could you imagine opening 500 conditionals in InfoPath? I mean, I can't. I literally can't even fathom what that would be like. Oh, so that's another thing. That was a little tidbit that I stole from her that I had not thought about. The maintainability of these solutions is a lot easier. So then this is just a quick, a screenshot. But another piece of feedback that we get is I can't make PowerApps look as nice as I did in InfoPath, which is the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard in my life. But I get it enough that I went ahead and kind of did. So this was an idea of me trying to do it as cheaply as possible. This is really just a PowerApp form. But one thing that a lot of us miss in a PowerApp form is that you can have custom cards. And so this right here is just a custom card that is set to span 4 columns. And then the background is set to purple, and there's some white text in it. Then this is, the title box, 3.5 columns. And then I put a custom card and just an image over there. So we're just a little different methodology of thinking. You can make these forms look as InfoPathy as you want. I don't want you to do that, but a lot of people ask, so I felt like I should kind of show you that, yes, we can make this feel very InfoPathy along the way. Doop. All right. Oh, so I got 2 minutes. So let's real quick go over here. And I don't have a mouse, so, Oh, that's the wrong button. I've already clicked the wrong button once. No. All right. Me and the Surface are not going to agree on how this works. Never mind. So the other thing I wanted to remind you guys is that in PowerApps, so if you go into SharePoint Online and you click on a form, if the SharePoint list is in the modern interface, then you can customize your form, okay? So don't miss on that. And also one of the things that a lot of people do miss in there, though, is there's the SharePoint integration object, so that's how you get all the different SharePoint components connected. And then there is also, oh goodness, there's one more piece. Oh, the other thing that a lot of people miss is when you first do it, it just comes with that little sliver. You can actually, once you're inside of PowerApps in app settings, you can change the form size and make it as big as you want. So we have some customers that when they customize their SharePoint list forms, they actually end up making it so it takes up the whole screen instead of just the little side piece. I am not a fan of that because that really means you're making your users do too much data entry at once, and your users look at it and go, ah! No? But yeah, so I don't want you to really do that, but it's another piece that's out there. So So that's my big kind of push here, I think. Oh, a couple other quick ideas, huh? Good job, me. So things like creating PDFs. This has been a big win in a lot of my apps as well, as people want to take those inputs and then we can send the data over to Flow. Flow creates some HTML and then converts that into PDF. We can actually spit out PDFs. So like that purchase order app I showed you, the ugly blue one, that one actually generates a purchase order and sends it straight to the vendor. No intervention required. Once you fill in all the data, it goes straight in a PDF form to the vendor to buy it. The other one is, the last tip, is look at your data structures. So a lot of things that we did in InfoPath, we did a lot of unholy stuff to make InfoPath work the way we needed. And so like right now, one of the quoting apps that I'm rewriting from InfoPath to PowerApps, he's got this weird opportunity key like spread all across all of his data structure because he didn't have a concept of parent-child relationships in InfoPath forms without this manual key. So make sure that you go ahead and start to build relatable data in your PowerApps. And remember, you can pull in data from all different sources. I think I have one app with 14 different data sources. PowerApps does it. InfoPath was like, I do one. So, all right, I am over my time, but I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. If you need anything, I'll be right over here. I'm happy to chat. I got some Chewy stickers if you like Chewy stickers, and thanks.